Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to do the conclusion, basically how to write a conclusion to the New Deal essay. So let's just zoom past all of this and go to the conclusion. Hopefully this time I didn't mess up like I did the previous time where I accidentally did not screen share. So you had a whole video of me talking to myself with nothing to look at. So hopefully this time everything is done correct and I don't have to re-record the video later like I did with the previous video. Let's go. Shoo. We did this and I did the revision on that. All right, so body of the essay, just quickly, some quick revision. You can divide the essay into four, three, or two main points. If you're going to do four main points, you're going to do relief, recovery, reform, and then you're going to tell me the criticism of all of those. Three main points, you're going to talk about the short-term changes, long-term changes, criticism. Uh, the two main points, tell me about the successes, tell me about the failures. Okay. Each main point can be a paragraph. Paragraphs need to follow PEEL. Point, explain, example, link. You can also kind of mix around explain an example. So you can give an example and then explain the example. Uh, or you can explain something and then give an example of something that you've explained. In other words, say, for example, you want to say that the New Deal was a success. All right. How do I pause the recording? I don't know how to do that. Oh, okay. Anyway, ignore the dog barking. Um, right. So, for example, if you want to explain something and then give an example, you can say that President Roosevelt introduced acts that would help people get people back into work, get them jobs. For example, in public works or in construction. So he passed for example. So then we speak about the examples. So then we'll say some of the acts that he introduced was the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Public Works Administration, which aim to get people back to work. So that's how you do the explanation first and then give the example. And then the other way around, you could say President Roosevelt introduced some acts that were about reforming the system. And one of the acts was the Social Security Act. Uh, for example, this is what the Social Security Act was all about. It was about providing a safety net for the elderly, for the disabled, for people that were unable to work. And it was the first of its kind in America at that time. So if you were in America at that time and this was before the Social Security Act, if you failed, that was on you. Remember, they had this whole policy of rugged individualism. You failed because you're bad. Get good, bro. But the Social Security Act was okay, you're in a bad situation. Here, let me help you out. So there you go. You give your example. So my example is the Social Security Act, and then I explain my example. Or you can do it the other way around, where you do the explanation and then you give your example afterwards. All right. So I spent way too much time on that. Let's go to how to write a conclusion. So, like an introduction, a conclusion has three main parts. You're going to have an introductory statement, which just basically kind of segues you into the conclusion to make the marker aware that this is your conclusion now and not just another paragraph of the essay. So, you can use words like in conclusion, to conclude, therefore, in summary, as can be seen above. Um, all of those words are kind of introductory statements that's going to segue you into the conclusion. And then you take a summary of the essay, pardon me, without being too repetitive. So you don't want to completely copy what you said in your essay over, and you don't want to completely copy your introduction as a conclusion. You need to kind of play around with your language a bit so that it doesn't sound too repetitive. You can, for example, explain the successes and failures of the three R's in short form, so like within 50 words or so. And then you finish off with a concluding statement. This is going to give your reader a sense of closure and it's going to let them feel like this essay has actually taught them something or it's actually answered the question. If you don't have that concluding statement, your conclusion can feel a little bit loose and it can feel like it doesn't actually draw an independent conclusion. It's very basic and things like that. So that concluding statement really drives your point home if done well. So here's an example. We say, in conclusion, the New Deal was a crucial response to the Great Depression. So we've got our in conclusion, that is our introductory sentence, just to let the marker know that you're bringing in your conclusion now. And then we're going to explain our essay in short form. So we're going to say it established various agencies that provided relief, created jobs, and introduced reforms to help Americans. And then we give some examples like the CCC and the SSA were important for boosting confidence in the economy. However, so here I'm bringing in the criticisms of where it's not a success. Because remember at the beginning I said to a certain extent. So I need to, in my conclusion, prove that it was only to a certain extent. So we're going to say, however, the New Deal did not completely end the Great Depression, and that recovery only came with World War II, which created many jobs and increased production. So that means if you were to go to the failure part of the essay, which I did not include in this session when I was showing how to write a paragraph, but you should know it from your notes and things like that. When you get there, you will see that World War II actually really boosted production in America. And that was the thing that kind of gave America that lift out of the economic downturn that they were facing. So I'm not going to go into that. But in my conclusion, you see, I've mentioned it, which kind of implies that it has been spoken about in the essay. Overall, so here is our concluding statement here. Overall, while the New Deal helped many people and set the stage for future reforms, full economic recovery was primarily driven by the demands of World War II. So there you go. That's your concluding statement. That is showing why I'm saying in the introduction it's only to a certain extent. All right, so here's a full essay example. I don't know. Let me try and run through it because I'm not sure how long this video is, but let me try and run through it quickly. So I chose one of the other essays from the beginning, and I said President Roosevelt promised a new deal for the forgotten man during his election campaign in 1932. Do you agree that he kept to his promise? Substantiate your line of argument with relevant evidence. So you've got a statement. They're asking you whether you agree with the statement, and then you have to speak with relevant evidence. So the key word that should pop up to you is that New Deal for the forgotten man. So you're going to speak about people that are generally forgotten in this version of the essay. Unlike the other essay, which was asking us mainly about the relief, recovery, and reform, this essay, it's got the same information, the same content, but we're just going to package it differently. Think about a Christmas present. You can put it in a box or you can wrap it up with wrapping paper. So we've got the same information we're going to talk about, the relief, recovery, reform. We're just going to frame it so that the focus of the essay is on the people that are forgotten. So the people that are unemployed, the people that are disabled, women, black people, migrant workers, etc., etc., etc. Now we need to see. He promised that the forgotten man is going to be dealt with in this new deal. And we now need to say if he kept to his promise. So do you agree that he kept to his promise? Substantive line of relevant evidence. Do you agree is what we call a question word, which means that when we write our introduction, we have to say, I agree or I disagree. Now, the problem with I agree or I disagree, I don't really like this so much when it's such a nuanced topic like the New Deal, is because it takes a very hardline stance for yes or no. So there's no room for sort of yes, sort of no. So I just took the stance of I disagree because it's just easier to argue that way. But you can say I agree and then argue that way if you want to. So I disagree that President Franklin D. Roosevelt fulfilled his election promises. That is my stance. In 1932, FDR promised a new deal for the forgotten man during his election campaign, aiming to ease the hardship of Americans suffering from the Great Depression. So that's just because this is why I'm saying I disagree. He put in place programs to provide relief for the unemployed, promote economic recovery, and bring in reforms to prevent future problems. Then we speak about what's going to be in the essay. This essay argues that while Roosevelt made major steps in fulfilling this promise, programs like the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Social Security Act, he still faced challenges in fully meeting the needs of all citizens. So I'm going to stop right there because somebody's calling me. I hope that this will help you prepare for your exam. Keep well and see you next time.